The Hoka Mach X was Hoka's first attempt at the ever-growing category of super trainer, but does this shoe capture the same magic as the Rocket X2 or even the Hoka Mach 5? Let's talk about it. What's up everybody, welcome back to Rad Dad Bod TV. I'm Eric McIntyre, aka Rad Dad, and today we are reviewing the Hoka Mach X. If you don't already follow me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button really quick so you can get the latest updates on all the upcoming shoe reviews that I'm going to be doing over the next few months. Now let's dive into some disclosures. I did receive the Hoka Mach X for free through my association with my local running store, Utah Run. That being said, neither Hoka nor Utah Run are paying me for this review, nor do they get to watch this video or give any input on the video beforehand. Now, with that out of the way, let's dive into the specs. The Hoka Mach X has a 39mm heel and a 34mm forefoot for a 4mm heel-to-toe drop, which is going to feel familiar to most Hoka fans. What makes this shoe a super trainer is the combination of a couple of things. First being a top layer of PIBA foam, followed by a bottom layer of supercritical EVA. This is one of Hoka's first attempts to integrate PIBA into their shoes, and this is definitely welcome to Hoka, as many fans of the brand have been asking the brand to implement that in their faster speed-oriented models. Other than having those supercritical foams, there's also a plate that is sandwiched between the two layers of foam. Now this is not a carbon fiber plate, but rather a P-Bax plate, which is actually the same material as this foam up top, but condensed down to a level where it becomes rigid and is actually plasticky. So those elements of the plate as well as the midsoles are what make this considered a super trainer. The upper is crafted with what is known as a jacquard mesh, which is going to be this very breathable kind of dual layer material. And the upper also has a very lightly padded mesh tongue that is gusseted on each side. Some other nice details on the upper are these laces, which are very, very thick and kind of this woven material, which seems to have some type of plasticky TPU potential material woven into that to make them a little bit stronger. The outsole itself has a durabrasion rubber, which is going to be really, really nice. You can see that these shoes have, I believe, over 70 miles on them, and there's very little wear on that traction right there. As far as overall fit, I would say that these fit true to size, but maybe run slightly wider than most Hokas, so keep that in mind. I don't think you need to go a full half size down or anything like that. If anything, it's just going to give you a little bit of extra room in the shoe, which is nice. Now, because the Hoka Mach X2 does not release until, I believe, September of this year, the shoe is still going to be full price at most retailers, so you're looking at around $180. So, as you would expect, a little bit higher than daily trainers, a little bit higher than maybe your non-plated standard speed day models, but not as expensive as the super shoes out there that are typically in the $225 to $275 range. All right, now that we've got the specs out of the way, let's dive into the good and the bad. Starting off with the fit, I find that the fit of this shoe is really, really spot on. I've heard some complaints of it being maybe a little bit too wide overall or a little bit too narrow specifically in the midfoot, but when I compare these especially to the Mach 5, I actually had some issues in the Mach 5 with how narrow the midfoot was, and I didn't feel like I had those same issues in the Mach X. I mean, all in all, I feel like it's a better overall fitting shoe. You can see here that I did use a heel lock because there was a little bit of extra potential width there in the heel, but as soon as I did that runner's knot, that heel lock, that lock-in was in place, and I didn't notice or have any issues with the heel coming out of the shoe after that. Other than the fit being pretty spot on, I found that this shoe just overall was very comfortable from the first step. When you first step into the shoe, you can feel a little bit of the cushioning, and there's just kind of like standard light cushioning around the ankle there in the upper and in the heel, but it's really, really nice. It doesn't cause any additional rubbing or friction. It just kind of hugs your heel there very nicely. The gusseted tongue just kind of wraps around your foot. There's some decent lockdown. The upper is very soft, very breathable. And that first layer of PIBA is just so soft and inviting. I think a lot of people, when they first put this on, just fell in love with the shoe like that. And I'll get to kind of the bad here in a second, but I feel like that comfort can be a little deceptive. Nonetheless, very comfortable shoe overall. One thing that was very welcome in the shoe, again, compared to the Mach 5, was that durabrasion rubber on the outsole. The traditional Mach line just used a rubberized EVA, which left it somewhat slick on different types of terrains, kind of felt awkward on the treadmill at times, and just maybe limited some of the durability of the shoe overall. The Mach X, however, that traction was really, really good. I ran in wet terrain, I ran on some snowy roads, and never really had any issues with slippage. On top of that, the traction itself was very durable, and so even through about 70-ish miles, the traction is holding up great, and if I clean these off, you probably wouldn't even realize that I'd run in them that much. Last thing I'll say as far as the good is this shoe has a lot of really good pace versatility. Sometimes when I put on a fast shoe, it's really hard to settle into maybe some of my warm-up paces, and so I might, depending on the workout, wear a different shoe for my warm-up than I would for the actual workout itself. A lot of people are using super trainers kind of like daily trainers. The most notable would probably be the Endorphin Speed line. And while I'm not necessarily for that because I don't like the rigidity of any type of plate in my shoes for daily usage, I totally get why, because these shoes, the super trainer category, is kind of built to have that pace versatility. And that pace versatility, again, exists with the Hoka Mach X. It is a very versatile shoe. You can take it for some shorter repeats if you want. You can take it for more tempo style runs, which I believe that's kind of the sweet spot for this shoe. Or you could even take it on some easy runs or just some long runs, get some nice miles in it. Now let's get to the bad. While the Mach X has a lot of pace versatility, where it really lacks in my mind is in race pace efforts. For myself, I oftentimes can use more of a traditional speed day shoe for kind of that tempo run range, or if I'm looking for more shorter, spicier, faster runs, then I might throw on an actual carbon plated shoe and get some really good turnover for those shorter reps. My hope was that the Mach X would kind of feel more like a super shoe, and I just didn't feel that. While it has the pace versatility, it doesn't quite have the same effortless, somewhat feeling of a super shoe. When I throw on the Rocket X2, I feel like I'm just that much snappier, that much more pop in my step. I feel like I don't have to press as much for my paces. In my early evaluation of the Cielo X1, I found that there was this effortless speed that existed with it. And again, the Mach X can go fast, I just don't feel like it's natural for it. Both the Rocket X2, the Cielo X1, and even the Mach 5 really had a great heel-to-toe transition for me. The foot rolled through, the setup of the foams was just really nice and kind of carries my foot. And the Mach X feels a little bit slappy. That being said, with it being built as more of a marathon training shoe and the Rocket X2, Cielo X1 being kind of the marathon racing shoe, the intention is for this to take on a lot of those bulk miles, especially in the marathon pace long runs. And to be fair, I think it probably could do a good job of that. I just don't know if I would be personally reaching for it in those scenarios. The other major negative that I would say is this shoe is heavy. Traditionally, speed day shoes are supposed to be fairly lightweight, but the Mach X comes in at about 9.2 ounces in a men's size 9, which is on the heavier side of things. Now, it's fair to say you can't get everything you want because they put in the foam, they put in the good traction, you know, you have the Pebax plate, and all of those things are gonna add some extra weight. So if adding weight gives better stability and better comfort and better propulsion, then I'm okay with it. But just the fact that I felt like the shoe was a little bit slappy, I do have to kind of dock it for that in particular. Now, as far as who I think would like the shoe or who is it for, how could you use it? Like I said, lots of pace versatility. So if you're someone who is looking for a shoe that you can do your fast runs in, that you can do your long runs in, that you can race in, and you don't have the ability to purchase 3 different shoes for those scenarios, then the Hoka Mach X is going to be excellent for kind of your race training, and your speed days. The other runners who would really benefit from this shoe, I think, are the ones who want a faster shoe with a little bit more stability. The width of the shoe combined with some of these cutouts in the outsole and midsole create for a very stable ride. And as someone who tends to overpronate a little bit on my right foot, I felt very secure, very stable, very in control regardless of pace in these shoes. So with a lot of racing shoes being very unstable, with a lot of super trainers too being very unstable, if you're someone who wants a faster shoe, needs some support or stability or motion control, then the Hoka Mach X may be your go-to. Now, I like to do some types of comparisons in my videos, so let's do comparisons with both the Mach 5 as well as some other super trainers. The Hoka Mach 5 uses a supercritical dual layer EVA foam in the shoe, and it uses a rubberized EVA for the outsole. The Mach X uses a dual layer PBA and supercritical EVA foam with a Durabrasion rubber outsole. So overall, the Mach X should be a lot softer, should have a lot better traction. The Mach 5 though is going to be a lot lighter weight, a lot more of a minimal shoe, though they both use that jacquard mesh on the top, so the uppers are going to be very, very similar as well. Overall, I will say that the Mach X feels like the faster shoe, but the Mach 5 has a little bit of that lighter weight, easier turnover. It's less slappy in my mind. Next up, the Endorphin Speed line. Now, I have not run in anything since the Endorphin Speed 2. I will be getting the Endorphin Speed 4, so stay tuned for that. But when comparing these two shoes, the Hoka Mach X is going to win out in overall stability. I've heard of many runners, including myself, who struggled with the Power Run PB foam in the Endorphin Speed line, as well as just the lack of overall stability or motion control in the shoe. So again, if you're looking for a speed day shoe where the Endorphin Speed line didn't quite work for you because of the instability, then the Hoka Mach X could be a really, really good option for you. Lastly, comparing to the New Balance Super Comp Trainer line, the Super Comp Trainer is incredibly heavy, even compared to the Mach X. The difference between the two though is that the Super Comp Trainer has a really nice, really efficient, really flowy feel from heel to toe, and that double layer foam makes it just overall massive. So it's going to have much more of a max cushion shoe feel, even though technically the Mach X is also max cushion. The Super Comp Trainer just has an overall super max cushion feel and is going to really roll you forward and kind of have that effortless speed, at least for kind of those medium long runs or tempo runs. That being said, the Mach X is probably going to be a little bit faster. You just may have to work for those miles a little bit more. So there you go. That's the Hoka Mach X, the good, the bad, the comparisons, and everything in between. Let me know in the comments if you've run in this shoe, and if so, what your thoughts were. And if you did like it, what are you hoping changes in between the Mach X1 and the upcoming Mach X2? And lastly, again, if you haven't already liked the video, please do that now and give me a follow, because we've got plenty of shoes to review in the upcoming months. Things like the Cielo X1, the Wave Rebellion Pro 2, the Alpha Fly 3, and many more are coming to the channel, so we hope to see you here again soon.